campus so that they can really have a pre-K community and that there are multiple pre-K teachers on a campus for collaboration and learning.
So I think that's important for the audience to know, because we do have neighborhood areas, or catchment areas, if you will, where we take the students to one central location. It just is more economical, it's more feasible to make it happen, but students from every campus that qualify under the state guidelines actually can go to our pre-K program.
Correct.
So I'm excited to hear what they're doing down in Austin. It'd be wonderful, I believe, if they would do something along the lines of universal pre-K. I've seen it be very effective, but right now it's a financing issue that limits our accessibility in that area. You mentioned a little bit about bilingual. Let's talk about bilingual at elementary schools, because that's a growing interest among a lot of our parents, whether our children at home are speaking English or another language. Talk about how we are doing bilingual programs in LISD.
Sure. So we have what we call a dual language program in Leander ISD, which means that students are learning to speak and to read in both English and in Spanish. In those programs, we have both native English speakers and native Spanish speakers learning together side by side. And the goal by the time they leave 5th grade is bilingual, biliterate in both grades and in both languages.
And I think that's an amazing skill. I really think our kids benefit greatly from speaking multiple languages, and to have a really firm grasp on English as well as Spanish when leaving elementary is wonderful. I know we've expanded the two-way dual language program. You want to talk a little bit about that and what campuses we do that at and why we've expanded it?
Sure. So we currently have 4 bilingual campuses. So Knowles is a bilingual campus, Baghdad is a bilingual campus, Whitestone and Reed. All 4 of those campuses have a two-way dual language model, which means both native English and native Spanish speakers. It's at different grade levels depending on when we began the program. So Reed is a little bit further along. They currently have kinder through 4th, where a campus like Baghdad only has English and Spanish speakers at the kindergarten level. We just started with them this year. For any of our native Spanish-speaking families, their students are automatically tested to qualify and be a part of the bilingual program. For any of our native English-speaking families, it is a process that you go through to be a part of that program. And so actually the registration ends for that on May 3rd for any of our native English-speaking families who are interested in participating in that dual language program. If they're interested also at Baghdad Elementary this week on Thursday, April 25th, from 6:30 to 8, there's an information session about our dual language program.
I would encourage you, if you have the opportunity to go to Baghdad on Thursday and to hear about the program, to see if it's something your family may be interested in. I think, again, it's an incredible skill to be able to have multiple languages that you speak well and you can write well and you can actually articulate well by the time you leave 5th grade. It's a huge advantage for our youngsters. I know not every family can avail themselves of it because it may involve some travel to get to one of the 4 campuses. And I will tell you that one of the issues that we have is we usually have more English-speaking homes that want to learn Spanish than we have kids that speak Spanish in the homes. So it is a limited number of slots for English speakers, but avail yourselves of that because we have to pair the kids up. And I think it's amazing to watch the interaction between the kids and watch them develop over the years both languages and do it very deeply. And the results of those programs is those kids are achieving at a very high level academically.
Absolutely. Our research shows that whenever the students do learn in both languages, that their achievement in through middle school and high school is typically higher.
So when we are talking about kids, maybe they're kids that are moving into the district from a private school or homeschool setting, or maybe they're coming from another state or another area in Texas, or maybe they're just starting off in kindergarten for the first time. What are some things that you can tell parents they can do to help prepare their children for their first day of school? Because the fall is coming up very quickly. We're ending the spring and the summer's going to be here before we know it.
Right. So I think that it's important, first off, for parents to just be very encouraging about school. We want school to be a fun place for kids to come. We want kids to be excited about coming to school. Doing things like reading with kids at home and talking with them about their day is always something that we would encourage. We do not ever expect kids to come in with a foundation level of skills. We don't expect kids to come in knowing the names of all the letters or their sounds or to know how to count to 100. Those are things that we teach kids when they're in kindergarten. So we take kids right as they are. So just reading with students, talking with their kids, and loving on their kids is what we would encourage to get them ready.
So there's really not a prerequisite set of skills to come into kindergarten. But if your children do come to us with some of that knowledge base, we'll expand that and extend that beyond where they are. So certainly continue to read to your kids as much as you can. And you're right, love on them because we want them to be excited about coming. It's an incredibly vibrant environment going into a kindergarten or first grade classroom, and it's something I enjoy tremendously. Let's talk a little bit about some of the resources that we have available to our elementary teachers. And let's talk about, I know right now we're going through the adoption of some new textbooks. So let's talk to our community about how do we actually select the materials through the textbook adoption. And let's talk about elementary at this time.
Sure. So the state of Texas actually just adopted new standards for English language arts and Spanish language arts. It was a K through 8 adoption, and so we are looking at K through 8 resources. So we'll talk specifically about elementary. So that means for our English language arts classrooms and our Spanish language arts classrooms, the state of Texas has provided us with some funding to provide new resources into the classrooms. So beginning last year, we brought some teachers together who started looking at the new standards, and they go through a process of bundling those standards. So what makes sense to be taught together at the different points in the year? Once we know what should be taught together, then that helps us to best identify the types of resources that will be needed for the classroom. We did a survey with every teacher in the district where they evaluated their current resources, and they told us, we really love these current resources, we would like to keep them, but these resources we believe need updating. And so that gave some information through the process so that we could find the perfect resources. We've actually just had approved by the board a couple of weeks ago our new language arts resources, and we're super excited because the language arts resources look like real books for kids. It looks like classroom libraries. It looks like books that the teachers are going to be reading to the students. We also, of course, have handwriting materials and phonics materials and spelling materials, but we're most excited about moving away from something that looks like a traditional basal reader that is kind of a contrived set of reading to more real books for kids.
You know, I think back to when I was a teacher many years ago in Round Rock ISD, and one of the things that at that time, the textbook really was your curriculum. The textbook is not the curriculum. It's not what we teach, but it's a resource being used. And what you're talking about is not just a textbook, but actually reading materials that span ability levels and span across grade levels so we can individualize instruction based on the student's reading level. I think that's exciting. I think that should be exciting for parents as well. We're allowing now, and we're in a phase now where teachers can really individualize that instruction.
And I think some student choice is also an opportunity, right? And so we are able to show students these are the types of things that we're learning, and here are 3 or 4 texts to choose from rather than everyone always reading the same text at the same time.
Well, and you know, Jennifer, in our district, we have so many kids that read at a very high level.
Yes.
So they're reading above their grade level, and sometimes it's difficult to find materials as a parent that matches their interest, but also their age and their reading level, because their age and their maturity level may be much lower than their actual reading level, because our kids are incredibly gifted in so many parts of our district, but reading is one of the areas where we soar. So what are some suggestions? You're a parent, you have a 3rd grader right now, you oversee elementary curriculum. How can a parent go about, even at home, selecting the right reading materials for their child?
So I do think that basing them off of interest is number one. I remember whenever my oldest was in about 1st or 2nd grade, he came home with the biography of Colt McCoy. And I thought, how in the world is this 6-year-old ever going to read the biography of Colt McCoy?
I like that. He's a good Longhorn.
He is a Longhorn. That's exactly right. But it was interesting to me because that was a book of his choice. And I never want to say to him, that book is too hard for you and take it away from him. I want him to flip through that book and find the things that he knows and understands. He's passionate about it. But then I think it is also important that students have books that they can read with fluency. So we want them to read things that they can read with about 90% accuracy. So about every 10th word, they should be able to read well. So we're super excited as parents for kids to be able to choose books, but then also to have books provided to them from their teachers that would meet those academic needs. So I do think that providing that choice is very key.
You know, in our household, when our kids were growing up, they're now in college, they certainly liked music, they played instruments, they played sports, they liked sports, but our favorite pastime, our favorite hobby was just to sit down and read books. I don't think there's a better thing you can do to help your children to grow academically and prepare them for school and really get them in a frame of mind that reading is not a chore. Reading is something that takes your imagination and really expands your horizons, and I'm just excited what we're doing in reading.
Well, and even my 3rd grader over the last couple of weeks has had a project where she's reading a chapter book and doing a little project for school. And a couple of the chapters we read together, and I would read a page and she would read a page, and late at night maybe I would read a whole chapter to her, and that's certainly appropriate for students through elementary, middle, and high school to continue reading with your students.
Absolutely. Talk a little bit about how we develop kits for teachers in the science area in the district. Because again, I'm not sure the general public knows it, but we do some very unique things in science preparation because not every elementary teacher has a science background. A lot are really trained in literature or in mathematics. So the science area is something that we help them with as well. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we're very lucky that we have a supportive board who has funded and helped us fund over many years the Science Materials Center. And so we have a facility that puts together modules of resources that get delivered to classroom teachers, kindergarten through 5th grade, every 9 weeks. Within those modules are everything that a teacher needs to teach science. So you may see traffic cones being shipped to a teacher, tennis balls, you may see snails coming their way, dirt. We say that we provide everything but water because they can get the water on the campus, so we don't ship water. And then also the curriculum and the learning opportunities are embedded in there. And then at the end of the 9 weeks, teachers box up the materials, send them back to the Science Materials Center. We refurbish them. We have some temporary people that we hire to come in and refurbish, and then they're sent back out to another campus the next 9 weeks. And our goal is that they look brand new whenever they are sent out every time.
And I have to tell you, it's absolutely an amazing operation. And it saves teachers from having to do all that prep time and duplicate that at campus after campus by having it centrally located and shipped off. I think it's an amazingly brilliant thing that we did many years ago through, again, the supportive board to build that facility and allow us to have people to staff it and get those materials ready for teachers. Before we take questions from the audience, and I know there's a few topics that have come in, and I do want to answer those topics for anybody that's watching today. Let's talk about Larkspur Elementary. We have our brand new elementary school we're opening up next fall. We both had a chance to tour it. What impresses you the most about that campus? What are you most excited about?
Well, so I'm very excited about their leader at Larkspur Elementary. Tracy Montano is someone who's been in Leander for a long time, and I think that she is a phenomenal principal, and I'm super excited that she's getting to open the campus. I think about the culture of the campus and the students and families that are already coming together to talk about goals for PTA, academic goals for the campus, and those kinds of things, and so that's super exciting. But the building itself is also pretty fantastic. You just think about the amazing facilities that are being provided for our students for learning. Not only can they learn within the classroom, but also those neighborhoods and the concept for students to be able to collaborate outside of their classroom and to take the learning beyond just the walls of the classroom is fantastic.
You know, you think about form following function. So the function is to provide kids opportunities to be in smaller groups, to learn and collaborate with each other. And that school design really lends itself to it. I'm looking forward to the community being able to tour through it when we have open house and let everyone really bask in and shine in the glory of what is a brand new school. Beautiful. It's going to be absolutely wonderful. Corey, what are you hearing from the community? What are a few questions that we can answer for them this evening?
Actually, we are still here taking questions for a couple minutes. And again, we apologize for the technical difficulties. We are live streaming on Twitter and YouTube. We have time, 5 minutes, to take 2-3 questions, so please feel free to submit those for Dr. Troxell or to Jennifer Collins. I'm hearing there is a question on the comment section of Facebook. Talk about comment session. Compensation. There we go. This is live TV at its best. I'm being whispered at off camera. We don't have headphones. The question is concerning compensation. This was a topic at the last Board of Trustees meeting as our HR department in the budget process talked about the compensation plans for the next year. Dr. Troxell, you want to give the people an update as to what's going on in the budget process and what we proposed for compensation adjustments for next year?
Absolutely. The Texas legislature is meeting, as you well know, and there's really two different versions of bills that are being moved through both the Senate and the House. So we are going to talk about just generically what we're going to propose to the board, and then a lot can be changed based on what passes either the House or the Senate or moves on as a compromise bill between both bodies. So what we're looking at is we always want to be in the marketplace at the top of the range. So when we compare ourselves for teachers, for example, we compare ourselves to neighboring school districts, Round Rock, Austin, Lake Travis, and we want to be at the top of that pay range for our teachers because we know that helps us not only attract the very best in the classroom, but also retain those individuals who could go very easily and drive very short distance to a neighboring district. So our goal is to be at the top of the market. Right now, it looks like most districts are proposing a 2% of what they call midpoint or the average range. We are proposing that as well. We may have to adjust that a little bit depending on what the legislature does and what other districts may do, but that will keep us very competitive in the market. We're also asking for a 2% of midpoint adjustments for all other positions. Now, I will tell you that may look a little bit different because you could have two people in a position. There could be something unique like a director position for elementary education, which is also equated to a executive director for a secondary position. So there's two people in those positions. If they have very little experience, Jennifer does now, but if you have very little bit of experience and you're getting a 2% of midpoint raise, you're actually getting more than 2%. If you have a lot of experience because your pay is above midpoint, above the average, you're getting a little bit less than 2%. But the average is based on the average pay for that position or the midpoint. So we're actually recommending a 2% across the board raise. We're a little concerned, honestly, about the Senate version of the bill, Corey, because the Senate is talking about giving a $5,000 bonus for 2 years just to teachers. Nobody else gets any additional money, so our custodians, our bus drivers, our instructional aides, no money is proposed in the Senate version of the bill on finance for those individuals. While we would all agree that teachers deserve a raise and we want to attract the very best in, I think our teachers would tell you they'd also like to see others that help them, like instructional aides, administrative assistants, get that raise as well. So the compensation right now is a 2% of midpoint raise. The midpoint is the average for a position, like a teacher would be a certain midpoint, a assistant principal would be another midpoint, a cafeteria worker would be another midpoint, but it's all based on that. And right now it looks like we can do that unless something happens up in Austin over the next month and a half. What other questions are coming in?
So actually, I think that is it. Let me take one more look. And again, it's also important to note as we continue down the budget path for our community to continue to follow our board briefs on leanderisd.org. You can also check them out in your inbox if you're one of our parents or staff members. After every board meeting, we send them out. We also publish them on social media, Facebook and Twitter. And we will go back to Dr. Troxell to close us out.
Well, Corey, before we close out, I would like you to comment out just for a moment about our rezoning, because we're in the middle of a massive rezoning project for middle schools, and you're really helping to lead that effort. It's been going extremely well. I know we've got a lot of community feedback. Could you just take a moment to explain to the community where we are with rezoning at this time?
I would love to talk about rezoning. I do want to answer a question from @DougJames about other assistant programs for reading, because I do think it's important to give a special shout out to the amazing literacy partners that our community enjoys. These are members of our community that volunteer their time once a week to come read to kids in our elementary schools. Jennifer and her team work so great with this coalition and our literacy partners group of community members who come out and support our kids. So I definitely wanted to go ahead and shout that out, and we'll be looking for a new round of recruits next year for members of our community. It's a great way to give back to schools by going in there. We have continued our pace of attendance school zoning changes for the 2020-2021 school year with the opening of Danielson Middle School. The board heard and discussed public feedback around Scenario D, which impacts a large part of our district at the middle school level and small tweaks at the high school level. The board is going to continue that discussion on May 2nd at their next meeting, may make a decision as early as May 16th, but may continue that discussion going into June and July. Again, this is not for to go into place until the 2020-2021 school year. If you visit www.leanderisd.org/MSAZ, you can find more information about everything we've done to this point. 3-4 months in motion right now and continuing the path to opening Danielson Middle School in 2020-2021.
Well, Corey, thank you for that information. I think it's important to keep the community apprised of what we're doing with middle school rezoning. Thank you also, Mr. James, for the question about our literacy partners. Jennifer, you and I both know that having adults come into our elementary schools and reading with our kids on a regular basis is wonderful. Our faith-based community helps with that so much, but also just volunteers throughout all of Leander. And again, sitting down with a student a couple times, just once a week, sometimes twice a week, for short periods of time, reading a book that, again, is self-selected many times by the students, sometimes brought in by the mentor reader is one of the best things we can do. Any comments about our Partners in Literacy program?
Well, I would say that it is one of the very best volunteer programs that is in the state of Texas, and we say what starts here in Leander changes the world, because that program has actually expanded out to multiple districts because it was so successful here in Leander. So we will be looking for more literacy partners as we open Larkspur Elementary. We're going to be looking for more partners, of course, to partner with them. And every year we're looking for just additional volunteers to come read with our kids. It's a 30-minute commitment each week, and they get to read with 2 kids, 15 minutes each. It's amazing.
Well, again, thank you for that question, and thank you for the other questions that came from the community. We're going to wrap up this edition of Let's Talk. We hope you stay dry with all the rain that's coming, and we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great evening.